You know what really bites? When you're trying to send a really personalized message to someone who isn't active on LinkedIn. My name is Beck Holland. I'm the head of sales development at Chorus.ai. Today, I wanted to cover a topic that's more of a response topic. I had done a session on how to personalize your emails and your cold calls to prospects, unpacking 5 different buckets of premises that you could use. I got a lot of feedback after that session from people who had watched it, saying that they wanted to know what you would do if you didn't have a buyer who is on LinkedIn. So for instance, over here at Chorus, we have a really high, we're a sales ICP. Sales, we sell to SDR leaders, we sell to sales operations and enablement. So they're a buyer that's usually on LinkedIn. So I'd been asked that question. And so today's session, I wanted to unpack if I'm selling into a buyer that typically is not on LinkedIn, whether that's someone who's really financial, whether that's someone who's a really technical buyer. So let's say, someone who's a part of the product team, someone who's a part of the back end team, or someone who's a part of an engineering team. What kind of premises can you tease out to personalize to them whenever they aren't dishing it up in front of you on their LinkedIn profile? So without further ado, why don't we transition to box number 1? The first kind of premise that you can, or type of premise that you can pick out for someone who is not on LinkedIn is what's called or someone who's not active on LinkedIn, is called a junk drawer premise. A junk drawer premise is any kind of personalized premise that is about someone directly, but doesn't really relate to their business life. So a couple of examples are on the board. A great example here, number 1, is schools attended or personal interests or hobbies. So for instance, if I was prospecting into my buddy Josh Braun, BD Titan and leader, I would probably pick, if he wasn't really active on LinkedIn, that he is a triathlete. So my pitch would go something like this when it came to Chorus's value prop. Hi Josh, I noticed that you are a triathlete, and correct me if I'm wrong, when it comes to being a triathlete, it's about nailing each one of the segments very well. What if you could ensure that each one of your prospects that walked into your door, you were nailing in terms of the SDR segment, the sales segment, and you're really having quality conversations in terms of the customer success angle so that your prospects have a great buyer journey from the beginning of sales, their experience with Sales DNA, to the end. So that's just an example, but basically any kind of premise that you tease out in the junk drawer, whether that's schools attended, personal interests is a great one, hobbies, mutual connections, recommendations. You could even go to Twitter posts, you could go to Facebook posts, or you could go to their Instagram feed. Remember that whatever premise that you're teasing out, you can go to my Personalization at Scale webinar on how to write a personalized message, but the rule of the second line is that you have to hook it to the personalized premise to what your value prop is. So I want people to be, to sidestep the 10-80-10 rule, where 10 is personalized, 80 is not, and 10% is. You want to make sure that the entire message is cohesive and that whatever piece you pull out from your buyer who's not active in making posts, let's say maybe it's a personal interest of, they really like wine. When it comes to good wine, it's all about highlighting the good flavor, the best flavors. What if you could highlight the best parts of your sales conversations by using a tool like Chorus? So, here's a good list, but basically anything that is not business related, and can you hook that in your second line to really stick the landing in the CTA so that you have a whole cohesive message that makes the person you're speaking with know that you personalize to them directly, but you also have something of value to offer in terms of their day-to-day. The second bucket that you can use if you can't find anything in the junk drawer, either on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn for these first few, is a demographic principle. So what I mean by demographic principle is something that's related to their role or related to their career trajectory. So you have 4 that are listed here. You could either choose career trajectory overall, like, hi Sean, I noticed, or you could even use me of, hi Beck, I noticed that your background, you've had a lot of SDR manager positions. You went from Adjust to Gong to G2 Crowded and then on to Chorus. So if we're going to use that role trajectory again, the rules is that you hook in the second line of, like, when it comes to having jobs that are kind of in the same space, it's all about having quality conversations on every SDR team, regardless of what product that you're pushing. What if you could ensure that your reps, on and on, are having the same kind of quality conversations, regardless of the product that they're selling, etc. So career trajectory, time in the role is another good one. Recent job change, if someone switches roles and you know that that's a key indicator of someone who could use your product as they recently took a position, then I would use that as my personal premise, or these are types of companies. So demographic principles, if someone does have an active profile on LinkedIn, even if they're not making posts, even if they're not making, being a part of any kind of webinars or writing any kind of articles or making any comments, then their career trajectory will be on their profile page. So this is for someone who is on LinkedIn but simply isn't active. The third different kind of bucket that you can use, and these, again, this is a tougher kind of sell. So this is not for sales and marketing. If you're selling into sales and marketing, those people usually have a really active profile. But the third bucket I would use if this person just simply wasn't on LinkedIn at all is I would use buyer persona templates. So typically in the industry, the most aggressive form of personalization, people will limit down to buyer persona. So if you use any kind of sales engagement vendor like Outreach, InsideSales.com, Yesware, Groove, and Apollo, then you'll go in and you'll see a lot of sequences that are built based on buyer personas. So for instance, over here at Chorus, these are our 5 buyer personas that we typically sell into: sales leaders, SDR leaders, customer success, sales enablement, and sales operations. So worst case scenario, if you can't find one of these 2 buckets, then I would start typing up emails that just really resonate with them at the core in terms of their buyer persona role, but aren't personalized to them directly. Again, I'm giving this to you as a guide of kind of a worst case scenario. So I would not suggest sticking here only to buyer persona if you have any of these other wonderful personalized premises that you can personalize on, because having a psychographic principle about something that they did directly is going to cause the most conversion. So again, this is just kind of a worst case scenario guide. And then the last bucket that we can go into is firmographic language. A firmographic premise is anything that's based on the company. So, that could be industry vertical, or that could be, product sophistication, for example, but a firmographic premise is about their company. So again, not the highest in terms of conversion, but but higher conversion if you're just using a broader template. So my suggestion with using a firmographic principle, let's say that, Josh Braun is not on LinkedIn, then I would say, okay, well, Sales DNA is his company. So why don't I go to Sales DNA on LinkedIn and see what kind of language they have, what they have to say about who they are. So great examples would be website language. If you go to their website and you see anything in common that you could tie back to your product, or blog posts, the about section on their LinkedIn profile. So even if your buyer is not on LinkedIn, their company is. So I'd go check out their about section and I would tease out some language. My biggest tip in the firmographic bucket is to be personalized, be very detailed, but be very brief. Sounds like they are counterintuitive terms, or it's an oxymoron, but the difference between, because sales development reps and self-prospectors, self-sourcing account executives have wanted to mask that their templates that are being sent out to many look like they're sent out to one person. You'll see language like this in the community right now. I know, hi Josh, I noticed that you're growing. Sales DNA is growing. The difference between that and saying, hi Josh, Sales DNA just grew by 13 members, and I've seen you have a steady career trajectory of pulling on 63% more people every single calendar year. The difference between there is one provides context and one doesn't. One provides details and one doesn't. One makes Josh know and ensures that Josh knows that is personalized just to him in Sales DNA, and one doesn't. So any kind of firmographic principle, the others are listed here, either hiring, IPO, merger and acquisition, M&A, case studies that they're doing, or press releases. Even if the person isn't on LinkedIn and you know what their role is and what their company is, then I'd find some kind of premise, some kind of tease out some kind of reason that you think that it's a great idea for you to do outreach, and reason that you think that they might be a good potential buyer. So in summary, the first bucket is junk drawer, anything that's not related to their business but is specific about them. Second is demographic, based on their role, career trajectory, or types of jobs that they've had, types of companies that they work for. Third, in worst case scenario, I would do buyer persona templates that's trying to hook them on their pain points in their day-to-day. And the last one is going to be any kind of firmographic principles. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.